I, with some friends, we co-founded what we call DFY Hero. So
Yeah.
we launched that in, in 2019, and that quickly grew up to about 4,000 users that deployed 6,000 websites. We got approached by our partner then to buy the entire platform from us, and we sold that startup. So that was like my first proper startup exit. The figure, it's not something I would really want to say, but it was like in six-figure dollars, early six figures though. That was in 2020. I was 22 when I sold that startup. Like it or not, Africa is leading the charge right now. It may not be obvious, but every other brand sleeping on Africa is gonna come crying in a couple of years. The businesses that are positioning right now, on either the infra level or the consumer level or whatever level, right, are gonna be the biggest winners. There's a context to doing business in Africa. The way you do business in Africa is way different from the way you do business in the West. The West is more like a inspirational kind of market, like from what I've observed so far.
Yeah.
African market is more of a show me rather than tell me market, right? They want
Yeah.
to see, they want to test before they believe. One of the big examples I gave is in the case of Money Point. They were able to adapt to that local context. So the market that people were not serving because of language barriers, obviously, in the far north, the far west in Nigeria, right? They went out there and they were able to hire people they call foot soldiers to, they were the ones interfacing with these customers. And they were able to get these people to trust the brand because why? They could speak their local dialect, knowing the local context, playing in the local context. Context always wins. It's not a matter of pumping money. Yeah, you may have the capital, but if you don't understand the context of where the customer is, you can't properly serve them.
I want to talk about Kross's roadmap. Now, I imagine you have a million things that people are asking you to build, languages to include, etc. How are you deciding what actually gets built?
Customers, basically. The person telling people asking for the million things, are they actually paying us? We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, so we prioritize future requests based on the people already and our revenue pipeline. Right? There's a lot of buzz comment sections. People say, yeah, it's good to have
Yeah.
this, good to have that, but at the end of the day, it's not. Yes, it's good to have. We know, but is it gonna reflect like into revenue ASAP? So we're trying to prioritize our immediate customers and people already in our revenue pipelines request. Currently, the languages we've actually worked on is accented English. Right, we worked on accented Nigerian English, and we are releasing accented English for Kenya, for South Africa, for Ghana, for Rwanda in a couple of days from now. Right, we're currently testing those things out, and for the actual local dialect, we're still working on that.
When you think about long-term defensibility for AI companies in Africa, what does it come down to? Is it data ownership, talent, infrastructure, or maybe distribution? How are you thinking about this?
I think it's distribution and data, basically. These markets have been overlooked primarily because of the data. It's hard to find. It's hard to get at scale. Right? You could get maybe 100 hours of audio, 1,000 hours of audio, but getting like 1 million hours of audio, 600,000 hours of audio, 500,000 hours of audio in one language is where the big bottleneck is, right? And it is at that scale you need sufficient data to be able to train these models to be very, very fluent and all of that. So it's data one side and distribution on the other side.
Today's guest, co-founder and CEO at Kros AI, Joshua Firima. Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you, Gideon. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about Kros. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main African problem you're helping solve?
Okay, so let me take it from the back. The problem we're solving in Africa is not just Africa, but emerging market at large, Latam and Southeast Asia. We're solving the issue of language barrier when that businesses face when they're trying to expand into or within these markets. So basically, across AI, we've made it possible for businesses to embed multilingual AI agents across voice and text that can speak their customers' dialect, speaking the accent that customers understand, which we, in turn increase customer retention and ultimately customer revenue.
What was the aha moment for Kros? When did you realize that there was a problem here that you can go in and solve?
Okay, so one was when ChatGPT launched, the buzz, the efficiency it brought into business processes for basically businesses, right? So I was like, not everyone in like Africa, for example, can speak English, and this kinds of automatically cuts them out of this technological advancement, and this will also affect businesses serving them. So we're like, okay, if we could make AI more fluent in this local dialect, it will unlock more markets to businesses serving these regions. And in fact, the very first version of Kros AI, or the initial idea was more like a Chat GPT clone, but that was just didn't fly. So that's why we are where we are now.
Yeah. Why the pivot?
Okay, I wouldn't say it's a pivot. It's just more like a change in direction because it's still breaking language barriers. But right now, from the infrastructure level, so prior it was more like giving consumers apps, right, where they could chat in and with that. But right now, we're taking that power and giving it to businesses so they could better service consumers. So it's more like just a change in direction, not a pivot per se.
Got you. Got you. Now, before Cross, you had already built and exited quite a few products. Give us a short version of your founder journey to this point.
Okay, I would say I've always been a founder from day zero. I've been doing business all my life, right from
Yeah.
pimping mobile devices, like the time when the likes of Technos flooded the African market, like Techno P3, Techno P3, Techno P5, and the rest of them. We were able to, then I was pimping these devices. So I had a small store in a marketplace, right, where I help people. When you buy a new phone, I just say, hey, I can help you make your phone better. Then App Store wasn't as popular, right? So I had this APK files, a lot of them, Bible, music, videos, games, everything.
Yeah.
So I just put it in your phone, and your phone becomes very
Super
comfy.
cool.
And yeah, you start enjoying the device you just acquired, right? So that was like where the entire
Yeah.
journey started. Yeah, so from then I learned web design. I started freelancing, and locally, like a local agent, started freelancing and took it international on Fiverr, Upwork at some point. After that, I started affiliate marketing, selling softwares for for commissions. So in my entire journey, I sold more than $500,000 in software products for other people.
Really?
Yeah, and also after then, I tried my hands on. No, I tried. Then I with some friends, we co-founded what we call DFY Hero. So what it was then we noticed that WordPress had this multi-site functionality that you could use to host multiple instances of WordPress sites. So we there was a plugin we researched, we bought that plugin, so it helped us manage this thing seamlessly. So we built a SaaS product out of it. It was a done for you website drag and drop builder on top of WordPress where you have over 120 templates, right? Over 120 templates. And those templates kind of like we already had the copy done. You just have to import, change the name, change the color, add the logo, and your website is ready. So
Yeah.
we launched that in 2019, and that quickly grew up to about 4,000 users that deployed 6,000 websites at scale. So we got approached by our partner then, which was a foreigner, to buy the entire platform from us, right? And we sold because the scale was too much at the time. And right, we just say, okay, makes a lot of sense. And we sold that startup. So that was like my first proper startup exit. Right. We sold that all of this happened within 10 months, right? We sold that. And after then, I tried to launch a web hosting company that didn't work. I tried to launch a kind of Hootsuite alternative that I could manage
Yeah.
multiple social media handles. That also didn't work. Then came the journey of an entrepreneur. I went bankrupt at some time, and I had to start rebuilding again. And that was when we started rebuilding Kros AI. At the time, it was called Mooseboo, which was like a super business app for SMEs, right? So that as we were building that, we saw a little bit of success with that, but the market dynamics changed and made us to pivot fully to Kros AI, and that's we're here now.
Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting journey. I want to few steps back. I want us to take a few steps back and talk about your first ever acquisition. Can you give us some sort of insight on what the figure is, and how old were you at the time?
How old I was?
Yeah.
Okay, well, for the figure, it's not something I would really want to say because all three of us said it was gonna be stealth forever, right? But it was like in six-figure dollars, early six figures though. Yeah. So then for the my age then I was 22 when I sold that. That was in 2020. I was 22 when I sold that startup there.
Google stuff. Now, what markets are you seeing the strongest demand for cross currently?
Okay, the market is basically Africa. That's where I'm seeing the strongest demand right now, right? It's Africa because, like it or not, Africa is leading the charge right now. It may not be obvious, but every other brand sleeping on Africa is gonna come crying in a couple years, right? And they're gonna pay the bigger price because the businesses that are positioning right now on either the infra level or the consumer level or whatever level, right, are going to be the biggest winners. And they're just like when, like in the Industrial Revolution in the US years back, right? You just, that was
Yeah.
when people were building different industries, and the people that built those infrastructure then were the biggest winners, even till date. Right? Their families still benefit from all those wealth created. The entire country was built from all of those preliminary work done, right? So Africa is the future, and the population of Africa is growing, and the consumers will always define the market. So I must not learn to speak English because I want to consume your product, right? So you have to meet me where I am at as a consumer, not me meeting you where you are at as a service provider. So that's where we see, the biggest winners in Africa across Southeast Asia. This is like where there's a lot of population and they are growing that their forces define markets, their demand define markets. So yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned Africa is your target market, but you're currently based in San Francisco. Now, is being in the diaspora helping you see things more clearly, or do you think it's creating blind spots as you're building? Now, I bring this up because, I mean, I would assume that um, I don't know, understanding the local context would be harder from the diaspora. And then secondly, a founder I recently spoke to, who's also in the B2B space, talked about door to door sales still being key in Africa. So how are you thinking about all this?
I've been in Africa all my life. I just left a couple months back. So I won't even call myself a diasporan yet. I'm still a full blooded African, right? So I just left a few months back
Yeah.
just to make some connections outside the continent and to try to see how I could do other stuff and all that. But the truth there is a context to doing business in Africa. The way you do business in Africa is way different from the way you do business in the West. The West is more like inspirational kind of market, like from what I've observed so far. So it's more like you could tell a Western business, like, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, prepay for this, you're getting a discount, at so time you get this. And they'll gladly prepay, right? Because they believe in the vision. But you can't tell an African business this prepay. So that you get it. No, that's they won't listen to that.
Yeah.
The African market is more of a show
True.
me rather than tell me market, right? They want
Yeah.
to see, they want to test before they believe, right? So we know all of these things, right? So being that I'm here, it's just basically for business connections. I'm still well rooted back home, so that doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I still want to talk about the local context, and I want to reference a post that you made some weeks back. You gave the example of Chowdeck and how they're doing well, where Glovo didn't, right? And so, is this the same mindset that's shaping how you're building out Cross?
Yes, yes, that's it. Because in fact, one of the big examples I give is in the case of MoneyPoint, right? MoneyPoint was like the fifth agency banking platform that launched in Nigeria at the time. Yeah, but right now they're number one. Why? Because they were able to adapt to that local context. So the market that people were not serving because of language barriers, obviously, the far north the far north, the far west in Nigeria, right? They went out there and they were able to hire people they call foot soldiers to, they were the ones interfacing with these customers, right? So they were able to get these people to trust the brand because why? They could speak their local dialects. Like we're conversing in English, so I'll be able to trust you. I'm able to trust you. If you were speaking your local dialect, like we won't be on this call. So Honeypot was able to manually bridge that gap, and that's why they won. And right now they process, I think the last report about $12 billion monthly from Nigeria, right? Which other agency banking platform does that? So that's more like one of the many examples. And the child next door is another example. Knowing the local context, playing in the local context. Context always wins. It's not a matter of pumping money, right? Yeah, you may have the capital, but if you don't understand the context from where the customer is, you can't properly serve them. And if you like, do free delivery for 30 tomorrow. Customers will always come for free delivery. They'll find a way and, and come and collect your free delivery. But when it
Yeah.
comes to them spending their real money with you, it becomes a problem because they don't understand you, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Very well said. Now, I want to talk a bit about sales and B2B sales to be specific. A lot of early stage founders struggle with B2B and enterprise sales. And so I'm very curious, what does a typical sales cycle look like for Cross?
Okay, so for us, it's just a couple days. We have not started selling to enterprises yet. We are still pushing for that, right? Because we just launched our APIs, agent APIs, about 2 weeks back. So for the smaller startups that we have on our platform now, it's going to take a long time, probably a day or even 2 or 3 days, right? Because there's kind of a existing relationship there, right? But for a standard like previous B2B sales I've done, right, it takes like a week, sometimes a month to close them out.
Yeah, yeah. Any potential to, or rather, are you looking to go up and sell to enterprise at some point?
Yeah, we are actually working on that, right? We're already reaching out to a couple of them, already working on that and seeing how that can play out. Enterprise sales is kind of a long sales cycle. So you're just taking one step at a time.
Got you, got you. Now, we often hear about founder conviction, but rarely about the doubt. So, what's something that you once believed strongly about the market or product that you've now currently had to unlearn?
Okay, prior to now, I used to believe that you need to have I would say, the cheapest price, the most affordable price, right? And customers will come flocking. And one thing I've learned the hard way is that you don't necessarily need to be the lowest priced product in the market, right? You don't have to be the lowest priced product in the market. You just have to be the best performing product in the market. Like customers can get what they want with near to zero hiccups, right? And you would win. Literally, you don't have to be the cheapest. Because if you're doing the cheapest, it will be a race to the bottom. Because there are other well-funded guys out there, and they can even incentivize their customers even below your own price, and you're out of the market. So you just have to have a better product. And even if you're more expensive, as long as you offer that value with zero hiccups, people would come.
I want to talk about Cross's roadmap. Now, I imagine you have a million things that people are asking you to build, languages to include, etc. So, how are you thinking about, or how are you deciding what actually gets built?
Customers, basically. The person telling the people asking for the million things, are they actually paying us? Will they pay us? Is there a contract in place? We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, so we prioritize future requests based on the people already on our revenue pipeline, right? So that's how we've been able to prioritize, and that's how we've been building so far, right? So there's a lot of buzz comment sections, people saying, "Yeah, it's good to have
Yeah.
this, good to have that," but at the end of the day, it's not. Yes, it's good to have. We know, but is it gonna reflect like into revenue ASAP,
Yeah.
right? So we're trying to prioritize our immediate customers and people already in our revenue pipelines request.
Some months ago, I spoke with a founder who's also building in the B2B AI space for Africa. And he talked about the unwillingness to pay for software. Is it something that you've experienced at Cross, and how are you tackling that?
Yeah, it's Yeah, businesses are quite unwilling to pay, like subscription based. I've not personally found success with that, but I know a couple founders who have been able to crack that, which is good, right? So basically, what we are doing, like our pricing model across AI is we have the infrastructure in place, like the AI tokens that you buy to use our platform, right? So we know that for you to use our product, you need to build some kind of software layer on top of it because of where we are at. So we are taking it upon ourselves to build that. So you're using our the software we built on top of the APIs. We don't charge you for that. We just charge you for the end product, which is more of a pay as you go method. Just the same way OpenAI
Yeah.
will charge you per million token, the same way we will charge you per million token. Right. So don't worry, you can use the
Yeah.
software for free. But so you're paying when you're getting value, when your own customers are getting value also, right? So that's like how we've seen payments work. The monthly subscription thing hasn't really been something that has worked for me on the African market.
I want to touch on pricing a bit more. Now, Cross is very evidently built on top of foundational models. So, how are you thinking about product pricing in that regard?
Okay, so we are pricing is not the one size fits all, basically, especially when you're serving market like this. Yes, there's a minimum pricing, right? Like we charge a $10 per million token, right? And we don't calculate output token, input token. We just that's the way we just charge
Oh,
everything
okay.
just together in one way, right? Because we don't just
Yeah.
wanna we host our own models, right? We fine tune Llama models and we host them on our own GPUs, hosted on Azure,
Got you.
right? So we are able to play around with pricing on per customer basis, right? To see what works for you. Because the thing that is the truth is the fluctuating currencies is a big it like affects the way customers price products that are being charged in dollars, right? Like us now, right? We try to peg it at that dollar here and we could do the manual conversions and collect local payments regardless of whatever country you're in, right? So it's just
Yeah.
more dynamic. Though that's the base price, but in terms of volume orders of the customers that do a lot of volume, we can always negotiate and see how best to fit their budget.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cross AI is a VC backed product. And so, at what point did you decide that it was time to raise money, and how did you go about it?
Okay, so the only money we raised in the past was from friends and family, and recently we just got into an accelerator program, and we are kicking off a full-blown fundraise soon in a couple of weeks. But prior to then, we were fully bootstrapped.
Got you. Got you. I'm curious. Is accelerator Draper you?
No, not GPU. It's called a Mal Accelerator.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about the limitations of Cross AI at this point. What should people know about Cross AI and what it can't do currently?
Okay, so currently, the languages we've actually worked on is Accented English, right? We worked on Accented Nigerian English, and we are releasing Accented English for Kenya, for South Africa, for Ghana, for Rwanda in a couple of days from now, right? We're currently testing those things out. And for the actual local dialect, we're still working on that, right? We're still working on that. So with Crosshair right now, you can provide support in, like you can't use it to, converse very fluently in the core local dialect. We're still working on that. But the accented English is what thing that we have, tackled and still tackling right now. So it's more like a process thing. But before the end of the year, we should be at that point where you could use it for from other actual local dialects.
When you think about long-term defensibility for AI companies in Africa, what does it come down to? Is it data ownership, talent, infrastructure, or maybe distribution? How are you thinking about this? Or are you at all thinking about defensibility?
I think it's distribution and data, basically. Distribution and data. Because these markets have been overlooked primarily because of the data, right? It's hard to find, it's hard to get at scale, right? You could get maybe 100 hours of audio, 20, 1,000 hours of audio, but getting like 1 million hours of audio, 600,000 hours of audio, 500,000 hours of audio in one language is where the big bottleneck is, right? And it is at that scale you need, sufficient data to be able to, train these models to be very, very fluent and all of that. So it's data
Yeah.
one side and distribution on the other side.
Now, if you weren't working on Kros AI right now, what would you be building? What opportunities are you seeing in Africa?
Okay, well, if I wasn't building Crosshair right now, well, there are a lot of opportunities in Africa right now, from logistics to even banking, right? Even banking at some level, there's still a lot of opportunities there. Like when I first
Really?
moved, yeah, when I first moved to the
Would you not
US,
say the space is quite oversaturated? Everyone's building
no,
in fintech.
not at all. Just maybe everyone is building for the same problem in fintech. Maybe I think that's what we should say because there's still a
Mm.
massive opportunity in the fintech space. Let me give you an example. Let's say for me, I'm an average Nigerian traveling around the country, right? And I need to make payments when
Yeah.
I get abroad. Having an ATM card that I could use to pay and withdraw across ATMs is one problem I think no fintech have been able to nail. Like when I just moved to the US, I was always almost stranded when I want to make payments. I have to do a lot of calculations. Say, okay, I have this amount on this card. I need to buy within this range so
Yeah.
I can pay. Because I had Naira, right? I had some dollars, but when I ran out of that, for me to be able to move that Naira into dollars for me to spend was a huge problem. I couldn't actually do that transaction. I had some fintech apps on my phone, all of them claiming, yes, you can use it
Yeah.
for online payments, car payments, but that's where it ends. I couldn't add that card to my phone, like to my Apple wallet to just tap and pay. I couldn't. None worked. But if it worked, it would be the simple thing of me sending Naira on the app, into the app, and just swapping to the dollar and funding the card on the app, and I just tap to pay. And I think up
Yeah.
to now, nobody have really cracked that. And that's like one huge problem. Now, this is not remittance. So this is not this payment. This is not bank
P2P. Yeah.
transfer. Yeah. This is just simple card payments. And there are thousands of Nigerians going on vacation yearly. And all of them will have to now carry cash because the risk of me, my card no goes say no work. And which is risk carrying that much cash in a country you don't know when you're just walking around, right? With that
Yeah.
much cash. You.
Yeah.
Right, so that one is like so there's a huge problem that so many problems around that still need to be solved. Right, so if I wasn't
What
doing
would
this
you
initiative,
personally be working on?
I'll further still do fintech. Probably this problem I just mentioned. That's what I'll be doing. Because I'm the kind of
Really?
person that I
Okay.
try not to just jump at problems. I try to look at it from all angles. The one that will create the most impact. That when a customer uses it, will be like, finally. Right. Those are the kind of problems I like solving.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that also ties in with willingness to pay, right?
Yeah.
When it's a bigger problem. Now, as AI changes how work happens, what kind of roles do you think are going to become more important in Africa, and which ones disappear?
In terms of disappearing, I don't really think Africa is matured for AI to replace anything, for anything to
Really?
disappear.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think like right now in the Western market, you could see AI replacing an entire core department, right? But in Africa, I don't think that's the case yet. What
Hmm.
AI can do is to enhance these departments, make it better. Like say after work hours or after a phone call, for example, right? It could be that preliminary. For example, let's use a call center now. Let's say you have like a bank or a new bank or a fintech, right? So when the call comes in, it comes like to the AI agent first. The AI agent is able to try to resolve that issue, probably ragging on top of the database of knowledge base or stuff like that, right? Or if they are not able to resolve that, then they pass the conversation to a human, right? That's the first step. AI has enhanced that work. So it has reduced the workload on that your small support team. So it makes them more efficient. It saves them time. So whenever a customer actually comes, they don't have to rush up the call to pick another call. They take their time and serve you to make sure the issue is resolved. Even if it takes 30 minutes, 1 hour, because they know that there's no other person waiting urgently to be attended to. Because AI has given them that time back. That's one side. Another side is now helping them to say, okay, we have done these conversations for this period of time. What is the most issue that customers have faced? So AI now can now analyze all these conversations and create new help docs in line with the solutions they give, right? That way it empowers the agent that the customer is talking to even provide better, efficient customer support. And it even further saves more time for the users. So I think it is until the AI has been able to work with the humans, work with us in and out for a longer time before it can really say, okay, you can say, okay, it's not very efficient. Okay, I want to replace 2 3 people. I want to lay off some people in this department or something like that. But till then, and for AI to get to that point, we have to adopt it at scale in a lot of our processes. Until then, AI is not replacing anybody. Apart from maybe obviously graphics design, other things is not a lot,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So okay, so let me rephrase my question. What roles do you think are going to become more important with the rise of AI?
What roles are going to be more important, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me see. Roles that are going to be more important with the rise of AI. Basically, what I'm looking at is on the customer engagement scene because everything ties back to your customers, right? Everything rallies back to who is paying you money, who is engaging with your product, who is engaging with your services. So I think just around customer engagement and things falling around customer engagement comes from like content creation, comes like newsletters, comes like just anything your customers or consumers consume that kinds of keep
Yeah.
them looking forward to engaging with your brands, right? Yeah, so things around there.
Okay. Joshua, I want you to call you short. Where is Cross AI in the next 5 years?
Oh, cross in the next 5 years is it's gonna be massive, right? Like the goal is to power as much other AI startups as possible to be in the workflow, like being the infrastructure layer, language infrastructure layer for businesses. So if tomorrow you want to build a note taker app for African languages, use Kros AI APIs. If tomorrow you want to build a content generation app for whatever reason, use Kros AI API. If tomorrow you want to build like a awareness app, a digital AI companion for the elderly, for the youngins, for farmers, for priests, for pastors, for any sector, use Kros AI APIs. So we are building that basic infrastructure for you, so you don't have to go through that bottleneck of saying, oh, I want to build this, but we're not able to speak this local dialect, we're not able to do this, we're not able to do that. So we want to be that language infra, speaking everyone's language very fluently. That it will even be hard to notice. So we want to be that infra for everyone.
Amazing, amazing stuff, Joshua. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. One last question. Where can people find you online if they want to reach out or learn more?
Okay, I'm most active on LinkedIn. That's Joshua Firima, Firma, Barrymore. If you just type Joshua Firima, right, you'd see me there. And I'm once in a while on Twitter, but I'm trying to be more active on Twitter. So on Twitter also, you could search for Joshua Firima JNR, right, and you'd find me there. Yeah.
And how do they get
But
started with Cross AI?
okay, so basically, we try to first of all engage with you, so you could just easily go to our website crossai.com and book a demo. That way, we kind of understand where you are at and how we can best help you, and we take it up from there.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Joshua, for making the time. It's been really
Thank you so
fun.
much, John, for having me.